They say that love, admiration, and loyalty are gifts, but they're not. They're dependencies, carefully constructed illusions that arise when someone begins to realize they can't live without what you give them. The truth is, no one becomes irresistible by being available. You become irresistible by becoming necessary. The moment people start to need you, not because of who you are, but because of what they feel when they are around you, you gain silent control over their emotions, their actions, their focus. And the power to make someone need you does not come from charm, beauty, or kindness. It comes from scarcity, from control, and from psychological precision. It begins with a quiet understanding. People are driven not by what they like, but by what they fear losing. Every human being is built to chase what withdraws, to crave what once gave them emotional nourishment and then disappeared. To make someone need you, you must first create that nourishment, make them feel seen, understood, or powerful, and then withdraw it. The human mind doesn't crave abundance, it craves equilibrium. When you disturb that balance, you create desire. And desire is dependency disguised as attraction. Think of the people who have marked your life most deeply. They weren't the ones who gave you everything. They were the ones who made you question what you were missing. They became ghosts in your mind, living rent-free, not because they were perfect, but because they created an emotional contrast you couldn't ignore. That is how psychological dependence begins, not through excess, but through withdrawal. When you understand this, you begin to see that attention is a drug, and scarcity is its dealer. You learn that silence, distance, and mystery are not passive. They are active tools of influence. When you stop giving people what they expect, they begin to orbit around you, trying to decode your silence, trying to recover the feeling they once had in your presence. This is not cruelty. It's control. It's the quiet architecture of human connection. Every relationship, whether personal or professional, functions like a negotiation between power and need. The one who needs less always leads. And most people reveal their dependency far too early. They give affection, validation, or emotional access before the other person has earned it. They think that generosity builds love, but in truth it only builds comfort, and comfort never creates addiction. If you want to become irresistible, you must learn to trigger emotional hunger, not emotional satisfaction. The key is not to withhold affection out of ego, but to distribute it strategically, to create patterns of reward and silence that keep others emotionally unbalanced, yet magnetized toward you. People confuse emotional control with manipulation, but manipulation seeks destruction. Control seeks order. You're not playing with their pain, you're shaping their perception. You are teaching them that your energy, your attention, your presence has value. And value, by its nature, cannot be constant. Anything that is always available loses meaning. Power exists in the pauses, not in the words. It's built in what you choose not to explain, not to offer, not to justify. When someone feels they can predict you, they stop valuing you. But when your silence becomes unpredictable, when they can't tell if you'll reward or withdraw, they begin to obsess. They start to imagine your thoughts, your feelings, your motives. They begin to chase clarity, and that chase turns into attachment. The most dangerous form of attraction is not built through beauty, it's built through ambiguity. You make them wonder, you make them interpret, you make them wait. And in waiting, they start to depend. This law has existed for centuries, hidden beneath the surface of love stories, leadership, and influence. Kings used it to bind their followers, lovers used it to sustain passion, artists used it to build mystery. It's not a trick. It's an understanding of human psychology so deep that it borders on spiritual truth. People worship what they don't fully understand. The more they know, the less they feel compelled. The less they know, the more they imagine. And imagination is always more powerful than reality. So to make someone need you, you must feed their imagination, never their certainty. Certainty is closure, and closure ends fascination. When you give people too much of you, you rob them of the space to dream about you. But when you step back, their mind starts to fill the silence with their own stories. They imagine your reasons, your emotions, your secrets, and in doing so, they become attached to the version of you they've created. That version becomes the addiction. You're no longer a person, you're a projection, a psychological echo of everything they crave but can't control. This is the essence of becoming irresistible, mastering the rhythm of giving and withholding, knowing when to appear and when to vanish. True dominance is never loud, it's rhythmic, like the tide. The moment you let someone rely on your presence, you lose influence. But when they start to rely on the absence of your presence, when they feel that void as part of their emotional reality, you've already won. Because now they're no longer interacting with you, they're reacting to you. You control the tempo of their inner life without saying a word. To build this level of control, you must also understand your own emotions. You must learn to detach. Emotional detachment is not coldness, it's calibration. It's the ability to feel deeply but not act impulsively. When you're calm, they lose the power to manipulate you. When you're silent, they reveal themselves. When you don't chase, they start to move toward you, pulled by an invisible current they can't resist. You become the mirror through which they see their own emotional hunger. And this mirror is addictive because it forces them to confront what they lack. People don't need you for who you are. They need you for how they feel in your presence. If your presence makes them feel significant, understood, or secure, they will cling to you. The paradox is that you must first give that feeling before you take it away. You must show them a glimpse of emotional equilibrium. Then retreat. The retreat triggers their need. It's the same psychological mechanism that governs addiction, the dopamine spike followed by withdrawal. The brain associates your presence with reward and your absence with discomfort. So it seeks to restore balance by pursuing you. That pursuit is the foundation of emotional control. And once it begins, it's almost impossible to stop, because people don't chase what's abundant. They chase what's slipping away. That's why the most powerful form of influence is built not on constant interaction, but on controlled distance. In silence, you become larger. In absence, you become mythic. Every interaction must be engineered with intent, to make them feel both comforted and uncertain, valued yet incomplete. The paradox keeps them tethered to you. It makes them check your presence, recall your words, question your silence. They start to analyze your timing, your tone, your gaze. They study you as if you hold a code they must decipher. And that code is the reason they can't move on. You've created a loop, a psychological orbit where you are the center of gravity. This is why emotional detachment is not weakness. It's a weapon. It allows you to maintain composure while others unravel. It allows you to watch without reacting, to decide when to reward and when to withdraw. Most people fear losing connection. Powerful people fear losing control. The difference defines everything, because control, once mastered, allows you to make others chase your calm. They begin to interpret your silence as superiority, your restraint as confidence, your mystery as depth. You stop being seen as an equal and start being perceived as a force. That perception is the seed of dependence. Once planted, it grows in their imagination, watered by every unanswered question, every unspoken thought. You become their private mystery, the one they want to understand but can't. And that impossibility is precisely what makes you irresistible. To understand the law that makes you irresistible, you must study the machinery of need itself. Need is not logical. It doesn't arise from reason. It is born from contrast, the gap between what someone once felt and what they now miss. This is why emotional control is always tied to timing. The moment you give too much, you erase the contrast. But when you appear, create intensity, then vanish, you imprint yourself into their emotional rhythm. You become the disruption their mind keeps trying to resolve. People are addicted not to comfort, but to fluctuation, the up and down, the tension and release, the uncertainty and reward. This pattern is the foundation of every form of attachment, from love to obsession. When you learn to control that rhythm, you control perception itself. Because the mind doesn't seek truth, it seeks relief. And whoever controls that relief controls desire. You must never forget that humans are designed to bond through repetition and emotional significance. When you become a consistent source of intense emotion, whether pleasure or tension, you become psychologically fused into their identity. They stop distinguishing between who they are and how you make them feel. That is when dependence forms. The most dangerous truth is this: people don't need love, they need regulation. When you regulate their emotional state, they interpret it as love. When you take that regulation away, they feel abandoned, so they return to the source of balance, you. This is why the most charismatic people often say very little. Their words are not the drug, their timing is. They speak just enough to trigger curiosity, to make others crave more. They control the dosage of emotional stimulation. You must become like that, measured, deliberate, aware of the impact of your silence. Each silence should feel loaded, as if it hides something valuable. The power is never in what you reveal, it's in what they imagine you're withholding. That's how dependency grows, through ambiguity. Ambiguity is the oxygen of fascination. Certainty is its death. When you leave space for imagination, people project their own fantasies into it. They start to interpret your behavior through the lens of their desires. They convince themselves that you are what they've been searching for, not because you told them so, but because they need to believe it. That belief binds them more tightly than any confession ever could. But to wield this power ethically, you must never lose control of your intent. The purpose of this law is not to destroy others emotionally, but to master the dynamics that rule human connection. Power without awareness becomes cruelty. Power with awareness becomes elegance. When you make others need you, the goal is not to exploit their weakness, but to elevate your value. You become the one who understands the unseen forces that govern attachment. Most people try to be liked. They try to be understood. But the powerful understand that being liked is temporary. Being needed is eternal. When someone needs you, they justify your flaws. They forgive your distance. They defend your silence. Their mind rewires itself to protect the bond. This is why people stay in toxic relationships, why they chase unavailable partners, why they worship distant mentors. It's not about logic, it's about regulation. The more unpredictable the source of emotional reward, the stronger the addiction becomes. This is called intermittent reinforcement, and it governs every form of emotional attachment known to man. The most addictive experiences in life are not constant. They fluctuate between hope and uncertainty. When someone doesn't know when they'll feel valued again, they begin to obsess. They check messages, reread words, replay memories. Their mind loops through the cycle of anticipation and disappointment, and every loop strengthens the bond. You can create this effect intentionally. Reward with precision. Withdraw without explanation. Let silence do the work of mystery. Never argue, never justify, never chase. The moment you start explaining yourself, you break the spell, because explanation gives them closure, and closure kills fascination. The secret of influence lies in the balance between presence and absence. When you're present, be fully present. Make your energy unforgettable. Make your gaze feel like a confession. Let your composure speak louder than your words. But when you're gone, vanish completely. Don't leave traces. Don't half withdraw. Half withdrawal breeds resentment. Full withdrawal breeds reverence. They'll respect the void more than your excuses. Over time, that void becomes sacred. They'll attach meaning to your silence, seeing it as depth, strength, or wisdom. People project their greatest qualities onto the ones they can't fully possess. Your distance becomes a canvas. They paint it with their longing. But to sustain this power, you must also resist the same trap. You cannot crave to be understood. You cannot seek validation. The moment you need to be seen, you lose the detachment that makes you magnetic. You must become comfortable being misunderstood, even judged, because mystery always invites misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding keeps people intrigued. You must stop measuring your worth through reactions. Real power is internal equilibrium, your ability to remain unmoved while others oscillate around you. The more emotionally stable you are, the more emotionally dependent others become. Because stability is rare. Most people live in emotional chaos. They are constantly reacting, doubting, overthinking. When they encounter someone calm, composed, and self-contained, they feel drawn to it like a storm to a mountain. You become their anchor, their mirror, their imagined savior, and they mistake that peace for love. What they truly love is the absence of their own chaos in your presence. The wise understand this dynamic deeply. They know that to lead, attract, or influence, they must create emotional gravity. Gravity is invisible, yet it pulls everything toward its center. It doesn't chase, it draws. You build gravity by embodying what others lack: calm, focus, discipline, silence. Every time you withhold reaction, you increase your gravitational pull. Every time you choose composure over impulse, you remind others that you are not ruled by emotion. You rule over it. That realization makes them trust you, desire you, depend on you. They begin to anchor their identity around your steadiness. The moment they do, you become indispensable. But there's a hidden danger. When you realize people need you, your ego will try to feed on it. It will tempt you to overuse your power, to control out of insecurity. That's when you start losing control. True mastery lies in restraint. You must be the one person who can hold power without flaunting it, who can be needed without becoming arrogant. Power is sustained through poise. The more silently you hold it, the longer it lasts. When you act from calm dominance, others mistake it for grace. They don't see control, they see confidence. And confidence, when consistent, transforms into myth. You become a symbol of what they can't replicate. They need you not just emotionally, but existentially. You become the standard by which they measure their own strength. This is the ultimate form of dependence, when someone's sense of control is tied to your presence. They start shaping their behavior to please you, aligning their moods with your approval, and yet you've said almost nothing. This is why silence is the companion of all great influence. It gives people space to attach, to imagine, to invest emotionally. Each second of silence plants a seed. Each unanswered message grows roots. They begin to question themselves instead of you. You've shifted the power dynamic entirely. They no longer evaluate you, you evaluate them. The moment they wonder where they stand with you, they're already beneath you psychologically. That's the point where need transforms into worship. They idealize you to protect themselves from the pain of uncertainty. You become both the cause and the cure of their tension. That is the essence of control, not through dominance but through quiet indispensability. You exist in their mind as the one they can't afford to lose. Every form of human power is built on one thing: the control of emotional supply. When you understand that attention, approval, and validation are currencies more valuable than money, you begin to see how effortlessly most people give their power away. They leak value through constant reassurance, through explanations, through trying to prove their worth. But the powerful, those who are truly irresistible, never do this. They understand that presence itself is a form of wealth, and that scarcity multiplies its value. You must see yourself as the source of an emotional drug: calmness, confidence, excitement, or significance, and ration it carefully. The one who controls the dosage controls the addiction. The more unpredictable the supply, the stronger the dependence. This law governs not only love but leadership, influence, and charisma. Every cult leader, every magnetic artist, every unforgettable lover, consciously or not, follows this rhythm. They know that constant availability breeds emotional numbness. Familiarity doesn't build connection, it dissolves it. To remain desirable, you must learn the art of controlled distance. Never flood anyone with your energy. Never give more than what leaves them slightly hungry. That hunger is what keeps them coming back. And yet, this control cannot appear forced. It must feel natural, as if you are simply comfortable in your solitude. The power of someone who doesn't need attention is magnetic, because it suggests emotional self-sufficiency. When people sense that your peace doesn't depend on them, they start to crave your validation as proof of their own worth. That craving turns your approval into a currency they want to earn. You must understand the psychology behind this exchange. People are addicted not to pleasure but to relief. They seek others who make them feel less anxious, more secure, more significant. If your presence gives them that feeling, they will attach to you. But to make your presence truly addictive, you must occasionally create the opposite: unease, distance, silence. Without that withdrawal, there's no contrast, and without contrast, there's no dependence. Think of how luxury brands operate. They don't flood the market with products. They limit availability, create waiting lists, elevate perception. The human mind assigns value to what is rare and uncertain. You must apply the same principle to your energy. Be selective with your responses, your time, your focus. Every interaction must feel intentional, as if it has weight. When you answer too quickly, appear too eager, or explain too much, you reduce your perceived value. But when you pause, observe, and respond from stillness, you create tension, and tension is the foundation of fascination. The silence between your words carries more meaning than the words themselves. When someone feels your attention shift away, their instinct is to chase it. That chase is what binds them. But your composure must remain intact throughout, because power is not sustained by mystery alone. It's sustained by discipline. If your emotional energy fluctuates wildly, you lose credibility. The moment you become reactive, you surrender control of the rhythm. You must train yourself to operate like a metronome of calm, steady, deliberate, unshaken. In that stillness, others feel safe yet challenged, comforted yet uncertain. They start to interpret your silence as depth, your calm as superiority, your distance as value. The more they try to decode you, the deeper they fall into your orbit. But this isn't about manipulation. It's about mastery. You are mastering the emotional tempo of your environment. Every word, every pause, every absence becomes part of your design. You're teaching people that your energy has meaning, and once they associate meaning with your presence, they can't unlearn it. Even when you're gone, they feel you. That's how you occupy space in someone's mind without physically being there. That's how you make presence addictive. It becomes psychological, not physical. The human mind bonds through patterns. When you establish a rhythm, engagement, withdrawal, reappearance, you create a neurological loop. The brain releases dopamine during anticipation, not satisfaction. So when people anticipate your presence, they feel pleasure even before you return. You've conditioned them to associate your silence with emotional stimulation. They crave you even when you're not there. And yet, this loop only works when your energy remains pure. If your distance feels like punishment, it breeds resentment. If it feels natural, it breeds reverence. The key difference is intention. Detachment must come from inner control, not from insecurity. The moment you withdraw to test someone, you expose weakness. But when you withdraw because you're simply centered, you project strength. Your absence then feels powerful, not manipulative. The more balanced you are, the more unbalanced they become. That imbalance is what fuels their fascination. People don't fall in love with perfection, they fall in love with tension. The tension between what they know and what they don't, between your warmth and your silence, between your gaze and your disappearance. You become the unresolved equation their mind keeps trying to solve. That's the essence of attraction. Unresolved tension sustained through controlled rhythm. But to maintain this rhythm, you must detach from outcomes. Never measure your power by reactions. True control is the ability to stay calm even when others withdraw, doubt, or provoke. Your silence must never be a tactic. It must be a state. A reflection of your understanding that power doesn't come from demand, but from restraint. You can't be irresistible if you need to be seen. You can't be powerful if you fear being misunderstood. Detachment isn't a strategy, it's evolution. It's what separates those who influence from those who chase. The moment you reach this understanding, everything changes. Conversations feel different. You stop rushing to fill silence. You stop over-explaining. You stop performing. You start existing with quiet certainty. And in that certainty, people sense something they can't explain: stability. Stability in a world of chaos is irresistible. The more turbulent their emotions, the more they cling to your calm. You become their emotional regulator, their hidden refuge. They return not because you demand it, but because they need it. And once they need it, they'll justify anything to maintain proximity to you. They'll forgive distance, misinterpret silence as depth, and reshape their boundaries around your comfort. They will protect the bond because it protects their own identity, but you must use this responsibility wisely. When people start to depend on your calm, your silence, your energy, you carry their instability within your sphere. You must stay grounded, never absorb their chaos. Observe, guide, influence, but never descend. Because once you share their instability, you lose the gravity that holds them. Remember, the stronger the storm around you, the more powerful your stillness becomes. The more they lose control, the more they need your restraint. And that's the paradox of this law. Your power doesn't come from action, but from stillness, not from presence, but from absence. Every time you choose calm over reaction, you're teaching them that peace is not something they can demand. It's something you grant. And that realization makes them need you, not want you. Need is deeper than desire. Desire fades when satisfied. Need grows with exposure. The more they taste your energy, the more intolerable its absence becomes. This is the quiet addiction of emotional power. But you can't fake it. You must become what you project. If you pretend to be calm, people will feel the tension beneath it. But if you truly are calm, your silence will dominate every room. People will feel drawn, not because of your words, but because of the invisible force of composure. That force cannot be performed, it must be cultivated, through discipline, through solitude, through understanding the mechanisms of your own emotions. You must become the source before you can control the supply. When you no longer need validation, you can give it strategically. When you no longer crave attention, your presence becomes rare. When you no longer fear losing anyone, you become the one no one wants to lose. That's the ultimate power. To be needed while remaining free. To be desired while staying detached. To be irreplaceable yet untouched. That is the currency of control, the mastery of emotional supply. Every person you meet is unconsciously searching for an archetype, a figure that fills the gaps left by their own emotional architecture. Some are drawn to the savior, others to the mystery, others to the calm presence that makes them feel safe. But what truly makes you irresistible is when you transcend all categories, when your presence touches multiple emotional needs at once. You become the mystery they can't define, the calm they crave, the standard they can't reach. To become the one they can't replace, you must first become the one they can't fully understand. Predictability kills fascination. The moment someone can explain you, they box you into comfort. And comfort is the slow death of attraction. Your power lies in your ability to remain undefined, to occupy the space between warmth and distance, revelation and restraint. People chase what they can't name because it awakens something ancient in them, curiosity mixed with longing. You must learn to embody contradiction. Kind but detached, strong but calm, distant but attentive. These contrasts make you unforgettable because the human mind cannot categorize them. It keeps returning to you, trying to decode the pattern, trying to resolve the paradox. That tension keeps you alive in their thoughts. Every time they think they understand you, surprise them with silence. Every time they expect distance, give warmth. Every time they think they've captured your attention, retreat. It's this unpredictability, controlled and intentional, that creates emotional gravity. You're not being inconsistent. You're being multidimensional. You are teaching them that your energy cannot be possessed, only experienced. And once someone feels that, truly feels it, they no longer see you as a person, but as a force. They begin to measure time through you, before you and after you. The more they try to replicate what you give, the more they fail. Because your essence isn't in your gestures, it's in your composure. You've become the reference point for everything they seek in others. This is what it means to become irreplaceable, when your energy becomes the metric of their emotional satisfaction. Every interaction they have after you is compared to yours, and none match, because yours wasn't built on performance. It was built on power. But power doesn't emerge from dominance. It emerges from depth, from understanding what others don't even understand about themselves. When you see people beyond their words, when you sense what they crave but can't admit, you enter the realm of silent influence. You're no longer speaking to their surface, you're speaking to their void, and the void is eternal. The one who can fill it, even for moments, becomes unforgettable. You must observe patterns, what makes them feel seen, what makes them relax, what triggers their insecurity. Give them what they need in fragments, never in fullness. Too much light blinds the eyes, too much presence numbs the soul. You must always leave space for their imagination to participate in the connection, because the mind bonds most deeply with what it helps create. When they imagine you, they attach even more. You must learn to feed their mind, not just their emotions. Speak less, but when you do, let your words echo. Choose phrases that linger. Speak as if you're revealing something sacred, even when it's simple. The tone matters more than the content. Mystery is amplified through control of tone, slow, deliberate, unhurried. When you speak like someone who could disappear at any moment, people listen differently. They hang on to every word, fearing it might be the last. That fear is emotional tension disguised as admiration. You must become a master of pacing, when to appear, when to speak, when to vanish. Think of it as composing music. Every note matters, but silence between notes creates the song's soul. The same applies to presence. Your energy must have rhythm. Too much stillness feels cold. Too much warmth feels weak. The balance between the two creates magnetism. You must also understand another law. People value what elevates them. If your presence makes someone feel more intelligent, calmer, or more powerful, they will never forget you. To become irreplaceable, make others feel like the best version of themselves when they are near you. But the secret lies in never making that feeling permanent. Let them taste elevation, then retreat. Their mind will link that elevation to your presence and begin to seek it again. They'll tell themselves they miss you, but what they really miss is who they were when they were around you. That's the essence of deep attachment. They confuse self-discovery with love. They think they need you because they feel expanded in your presence. But that expansion came from your stillness, your reflection, your ability to remain unreactive while they reveal themselves. You become their mirror, calm, steady, accepting, and everyone falls for the mirror that shows them their ideal reflection. But the mirror must never chase the gaze. You must remain silent, patient, observant. Let them project, let them believe, let them build their version of you. The less you correct it, the more they invest emotionally in it. Every correction you make weakens the fantasy. Every silence strengthens it. Fantasy is the oxygen of desire. You must protect it at all costs. But to hold this power, you must also guard your emotional center, because every person you draw in will try to decode and possess you. Their curiosity will become entitlement. They'll test you, provoke you, demand reassurance. That's when most people lose power. They give explanations, but explanations destroy aura. Never justify your silence. Never explain your detachment. Mystery doesn't apologize. Power doesn't clarify. Every time you hold your composure, you're teaching them how to treat you. You're teaching them that your attention is sacred and must be earned. That boundary doesn't repel, it magnetizes. People crave structure more than affection. They respect what they can't control. The one who sets the frame always holds the higher ground. The moment you let someone dictate your rhythm, you become replaceable. Because replaceable people adapt, irreplaceable ones define the environment. You must define yours through consistency of tone, calmness of presence, and precision of distance. Every interaction becomes a ritual. Every silence becomes sacred. Over time, they stop seeing you as human chaos and start perceiving you as order. And humans always return to what brings order to their chaos. That's why detachment, once mastered, becomes irresistible. It's not emotional coldness, it's emotional architecture. You are designing how others experience you. When you understand that, you stop reacting and start composing. You stop chasing connection and start curating it. You stop performing and start emanating. People will feel the difference. They'll sense the control beneath your calm, and they'll want to belong to that energy. But they can't, not fully. And that's what makes it eternal. The most powerful bonds are never fully realized. The tension of almost is more addictive than the peace of having. You must live in that tension and let it sustain fascination. That's how you become the one they can't replace, by never allowing the mystery to end. The highest form of power is emotional independence disguised as quiet magnetism. You reach this level when you can walk away from anyone, anything, and still remain whole. That's when people begin to orbit around you like planets pulled by invisible gravity. Because in a world built on dependence, self-sufficiency is the rarest currency. Everyone is trying to be chosen, noticed, validated. Few are centered enough to exist without external confirmation. The one who doesn't need becomes the one everyone needs. It's a paradox that rules human nature. The less you depend, the more others depend on you. The moment you detach from the emotional economy of seeking and proving, your energy shifts. You stop chasing reciprocity. You stop performing for attention. You start existing with quiet certainty. And that certainty radiates something people can't explain but always feel. It feels like peace. And peace, in a chaotic world, is irresistible. It's the energy of someone who no longer plays the game, but defines its boundaries. People sense it immediately. They test it, push it, and try to disturb it. But when they see that nothing moves you, they submit to it. Because calmness is dominance in disguise. It's the kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't rush, doesn't need to prove. It simply is. To master the art of being needed without needing, you must destroy every illusion of emotional scarcity. You must understand that attachment often masquerades as love, but is usually fear. Fear of emptiness, of irrelevance, of silence. The moment you make peace with silence, you become untouchable. Most people run from silence because it confronts them with themselves. But the powerful inhabit it. They understand that silence amplifies energy. The less you speak, the more every word matters. The less you reveal, the more every gesture is analyzed. Silence turns your presence into a stage where others project their desires. You become their canvas, their reference point, their obsession. But to hold this kind of power, you must remain internally detached. You cannot let admiration become your oxygen. The moment you start needing their validation, the polarity reverses. You begin orbiting them. Power is lost not through defeat, but through dependence. The one who needs less always rules the dynamic. Detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't collapse into what you feel. It's emotional clarity under pressure. It's mastery over reaction. When others provoke, you stay grounded. When others withdraw, you stay calm. When others try to pull you into their chaos, you observe. This control makes you appear unshakable, and that perception alone creates reliance. People begin to depend on your composure because it regulates them. They seek your energy like oxygen in a storm. They'll come to you for reassurance, guidance, or simply the comfort of your presence. And yet you'll never need to say a word. True power moves in silence. It's the energy of knowing you can walk away and still remain abundant. Because dependency is built on scarcity, but influence is built on abundance. When your peace isn't disturbed by who stays or leaves, people sense that you have something they can't take. That's what they begin to worship. That's what makes you magnetic. But to live at this level, you must learn one of the hardest disciplines, withholding emotional excess. You must resist the temptation to over-explain, to overshare, to prove. Words are cheap. Energy is expensive. Preserve yours. The less you expend it, the more powerful it becomes. Speak when it matters. Act when it's necessary. The rest of the time exist in quiet observation. Every moment of stillness builds pressure. Every moment of restraint increases your value. It's like holding the final note in a symphony, the silence after it becomes sacred. You must make your presence feel like that. Sacred, finite, unreproducible. When people realize they can't replicate you, they start to revere you. Reverence is a higher form of attraction. It's not just emotional, it's spiritual. They feel that your energy connects them to something beyond the ordinary, and they'll do anything to stay close to it. But this reverence only lasts if you remain unpredictable. Predictability breeds equality, and equality dissolves awe. You must be consistent in character, but unpredictable in expression. They must know you'll stay calm, but never know what your next move will be. That tension keeps the hierarchy intact, and the hierarchy must always favor the detached, because the detached one is the chooser. The one who doesn't react defines the frame of the interaction. Every time you respond from silence instead of emotion, you remind them where the center of gravity lies. The secret is to let them believe they have access but not possession. Accessibility without ownership keeps fascination alive. They can see you but not hold you. They can reach you but never predict you. That distance, subtle yet unbridgeable, becomes their quiet addiction. They begin to shape their behavior to protect their access to you. They filter their words, soften their tone, hide their chaos. You become their psychological mirror, and they don't want to see themselves shattered. This is how reverence sustains itself, through fear of losing equilibrium. But you, the center, must never break your own. You must practice solitude until silence no longer feels like absence but power. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's calibration. It resets your energy, sharpens your perception, reminds you that connection is a choice, not a need. When solitude becomes your ally, you stop begging for attention. You stop fearing rejection. You stop negotiating your worth. You walk differently, speak differently, move differently. You carry an energy that says, I am complete. And completeness is magnetic because everyone else feels fragmented. They sense in you what they've been searching for, a mind at peace, a spirit under control. They'll call it confidence, mystery, or depth. But what they're truly sensing is freedom. Freedom from need. And that freedom is what binds them. The irony is that the more you detach, the deeper the attachments you create. Because detachment doesn't kill emotion, it clarifies it. It filters out noise and leaves only what's real. You stop forcing connections and start attracting resonance. The ones who align will stay naturally. The ones who don't will fade. And you'll never have to chase again. This is what it means to live in psychological power. To be the calm in every storm. The silence that commands attention. The absence that weighs more than presence. You become timeless because you are no longer performing for the moment. You exist like gravity, unseen, unspoken, but always felt. People may resist you, envy you, or misunderstand you, but they will never forget you. Because what they felt in your presence wasn't admiration, it was awakening. They saw what composure feels like, what freedom looks like, what control sounds like when expressed through silence. And once someone experiences that, they can't return to noise. They start seeking you again, not out of choice, but out of need. You've become the quiet addiction they can't name, the law of emotional gravity they can't escape. This is the final mastery, to make others need you without ever needing them back. To walk through life with the composure of someone who could leave at any moment, yet is never truly gone, because your energy lingers long after your presence fades. That is the true meaning of being irresistible. You're not loved because you demand it. You're desired because you don't. You're not powerful because you control others. You're powerful because you control yourself. That's the paradox of silence. It creates noise in the minds of others while keeping yours perfectly still. That is the power everyone secretly fears and secretly craves, the ability to remain whole in a world built on need. Silence isn't the absence of power, it's the proof of it. Subscribe, and because real power doesn't shout, it whispers.